It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are your podcast for relevant conversations with contractors. Hopefully a little bit of entertainment for you as well. Episode 41 today. With us live in studio, we got Sal Lodhi of Service All-Stars.
What's up, Sal?
Hey, what's going on? How you guys doing?
Man.
Good, man.
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate
Thanks
you coming
for having me
Real
here.
life person.
Yeah. It's good to have people in studio every once in a while. It's fun.
Yeah.
Breaks up the monotony of staring at a computer screen.
I can relate.
So give us a little backstory on you guys, how you got started in this industry, and then maybe the journey to where you are now with Service All-Stars.
Yeah, I mean, I started in the trade young. I was probably about 11 years old. I was helping my dad out with fixing stuff around the house, and he kind of showed me how to be a handyman of sorts. But on the weekends, we would help out his friends fixing their air conditioners. He knew how to do that kind of stuff. And as I got older, and I was able to work for companies, I started working I was probably like 18, 19 years old. Started working.
Hopefully not 11. I think there's labor laws against that.
I said, hey, I can make money from this. So I went to work for other contractors. I used to work on, I don't know if you're familiar about track homes, So
of course, yeah.
I'd be working on track homes, and, one day they'd have us brazing 10 houses, line sets for 10 houses. The next day we come back and do the same houses, do the duct work for those houses. So you pick up things real quick because it's all repetitive. You're going from one house to another doing the same thing. By the time you're done,
usually house 10 ends up being a lot better than house 1, right?
Exactly. so and I went to school. I went to college, but really college didn't work out for me. I don't think I was the college type. I think, if you're going to go to school, you're going to go to work for somebody. Yeah. And I kind of knew from an early age that I was going to be in business for myself. Right. Not sure what I was going to be in business doing, but I knew I was going to be in some sort of business. So I've been in business for at least the last 18 years of my life. In different kinds of businesses. And a lot of them, most of them, honestly, they failed. This has been the most successful business for me thus far, and I've been in this business for 7 years now.
Cool.
So the other businesses were, they were either short-lived or I sold them, or I had a partnership. And
all in the trades?
No, different things, So
No kidding.
Yeah, I would say that between the time I was 18 to about 23, I was in the trade, and then I went from there. I went to doing trucking as a truck broker. Not driving a truck, but as a truck broker. I've owned a restaurant, for a few years and that sort of thing. But true story is about 8 years ago, I was homeless.
Really?
Yeah,
no way.
Yeah. I hit kind of rock bottom in my life, and I was homeless. Didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, and
I've heard the first part of that saying. I haven't heard the second, but that makes it a lot more real at that point.
Yeah. So but I changed my life from there. I was washing windows, and I got a few dollars up, and then I went and bought a set of tools. Cost me about $400 or $500, and I went and got a job. And I was living in someone's garage. I got a place to stay eventually in someone's garage, and I worked my way up from there to what it is right now, 7 years later.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So it was a pretty crazy ride.
Talk about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was wild. But, I set it in my mind that I wasn't going to stay at rock bottom. I wasn't going to stay homeless. And, certain things in my life I had to change, and one was dedication to self-improvement, that every day would be a new day for me and an improving day from the one prior, and that's kind of how I live my life.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, you think about so many people that are in that situation, and very few of them have the inner willpower or that drive to self-improve to actually get to where they are now. So, I mean, it's quite a compliment to you to know where you are now after being there. That's crazy.
Yeah. Talk about that transition from being homeless. I'm assuming homeless into Service All-Stars kind of. What's that transition?
Path there, yeah.
It was a path of opportunity, man. It really was. I mean, it was just certain things happened in my life that were just like it made sense. You know, it was like walking on a path of light. That's the best way I could explain it. You know, it's like this is the way the lighted path is leading you. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you're here now. You take this step, then that step, and it just kept happening like that. I mean, it was really remarkable. I mean, I was homeless. You know, my friend gave me the idea. He said, "Hey, you know, just go wash windows." I had a car full of stuff. And he's like, "Just go wash windows. You can get around, right?" So I went to business, and I would wash their windows outside for like $20 or something, you know. And you know, I was living like that in my car for a while, and then you know, I said, well, good thing was I had a gym membership, you know, that I was maintaining. I still maintain that gym membership for $54 a year since 2005.
Being grandfathered into that good pricing.
And it's 24-hour fitness, so they're like all over the country, right? Yeah. So wherever I go, I can get a shower at the gym. So I was taking showers at the gym. That's how I was cleaning up. But while I was working out, I met a friend who became a friend. He was a workout partner, but he became a really good friend of mine. And that was really the first part of my opportunity. You know, when I met him, one day he asked me, he said, "Hey, dude, where do you live?" I said, I live in my car." And he's like, "What?" You know, and you know, he set me up into this person's garage for like, I think it was like $400 a month or something. And I was living in that person's garage for some time, and still washing windows. But one day he said, "Hey, like, you know, like, what do you do? Like, what do you know how to do?" You know? And I said, "Well, you know, I've done a lot of things in my life, but I hit a bad streak and I ended up, down and out, more or less, you know, 100% my fault, you know, doing things I shouldn't probably have been doing." But, you know, with that said, he said, well, what do you know? I said, well, I know how to do HVAC, you know, because I was, you know, my dad taught me this trade. I worked in the trade for some years. And he said, well, you know what? I know a guy that owns an HVAC company. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah. So he talked to the guy. He said, well, the guy said he's willing to help you out as long as you got your tools. And, you know, I had like I said, $400 or $500 in my pocket. And I said, you know what? When that day when I went to go buy my tools, I just made a conscious decision that this is all I'm going to do in my life. You know, like he was like, I'm going to just do this until I'm successful at it.
Be good at one thing and just,
You know, because, like I said, early on in my life, you know, I was doing my dad showed me how to do a lot of things, work on cars, work on air conditioners. So I had a lot of...
You're good with your hands.
Oh, he gave me a tremendous amount of skills, you know. But that kind of led me into different paths too, you know, try this, try that. So in my 20s, I was trying different things, some good things, some not so good things, right? But what had happened is that I came to realize that exactly that, you know, you got to do one thing, and you got to do really good. If you could do that, you'll be successful. So I had two grandfathers, like everybody does, right? So one of my grandfathers, you know, he was a very successful lawyer, and he always taught his kids that, you know, do one thing and do it very good, very well, and you will be successful at it. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to know about everything and anything in the world. And, you know, people say, I never met the guy, but people say that he was, you know, if you had asked him about anything besides the law, he would tell you he doesn't know about it, you know. But if you asked him anything about the law, he knew it like the back of his hand, you know, like law books. He had memorized them and stuff like that, you know. So so that kind of like resonated inside of my head, you know. Then I had another grandfather. And that grandfather was very rich, you know. He had a lot of money. He left a lot of money to his kids, you know, that sort of thing. So on the other hand, I had another grandfather that was from my mother's side, and he was like an encyclopedia, you know. He knew a little bit about everything, you know. And I mean, he passed now, a really great guy, but, you know, he was never successful at anything. It was kind of like, who do I want to be like? Do I want to be like my grandfather here and my grandfather there, you know? And I think I spent, you know, a large amount of my time being like my grandfather that knew a little bit about everything, but I never spent time being like my grandfather, who was very concentrated in, you know, what he did best.
Right.
And so that's when I went and bought those tools, I said, you know what, I'm going to be like this grandfather here, you know. and that's what I've been really doing. You know, I've just been concentrating on my trade, concentrating on this business, and taking it to new heights. Really.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's a cool illustration.
Yeah. So, you worked for that guy for a while, where you got that opportunity from where you were living at. What was that precipice that you came to that, you know, you said, hey, I want to do this on my own now, and you kind of had the, lack of a better term, the balls to actually do it on your own? What was that turning point there for you?
You know, it was a do or die type of attitude, because for me, you know, being homeless and stuff is like either you're gonna do or you're gonna die. You know, there was no in between. So, you know, just really being locked into that mentality, I think drove me in the right direction. You know, with that person that he had gotten me a job with, you know, I was making $10 an hour. You know, this is not a long time ago. We're talking about you know, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit over 8 years ago.
2012.
9 years ago, I was making you know, $10 an hour. You know what I mean? I wasn't making, it was nothing. He would give me like $400 a week. You know, it was all under the table, cash money.
Yeah.
But something happened in that guy's life. One thing was that I reacclimated myself with the trade quick, you know, because I have the ability to learn fast. So, you know, as far as my responsibilities, they took off. My pay really didn't take off. But this particular person, he had a large contract maintaining a lot of KFCs in and around SoCal area. What happened is he lost that contract. And that was a major portion of his income. So when he lost that contract, him having 4 kids, he had to kind of like fill in the void quick. You know, he wasn't in my shoes where, you know, I had nothing to lose. Right. You know, he had properties, he had a business, he had family, he had a wife, he had all this stuff, right? So when he lost that opportunity, he found a new opportunity out of state. So he went to Ohio. But after he left from here, I mean, I was kind of down and out. I started working for other contractors who were basically, you know, they didn't have any kind of integrity to I mean, I'm just going to say to humans,
right.
because you know they were basically like, okay, you're going to work for me, but you're only working for me for 90 days because after 90 days I have to get workman's comp for you, and after, you know, I don't want to get workman's comp, so I'm going to fire you, you know. And they had it all preset in their mind, you know, what they were doing, you know. And you know, me being at the level I was at, I really didn't know what was going on, but like I said, I'm a fast learner,
right.
And a couple of tries told me, I'm like,
figured it out.
Like, this is what's happening here, you know. Yeah. So why am I always finding a new job? So my boss that lost the contract, he called me up. You know, he was in Ohio. He said, hey, look, you know, I had some side customers there outside of his main contract that he said needs servicing, you know. So he said, hey, can you go and service these customers, bill them, and give me 20% of the ticket? So, you know, I'm between two things now. Either I could go to keep trying to find a job and work for these people that are basically, you know, I mean, there was times when people wouldn't even pay me. You know, I'd have to go to labor court or threaten to go to labor court just to get paid. Right. You know, so I said, am I going to keep doing that, or am I going to go with this guy's opportunity that he's given me, where I can just go around and he'll give me the calls or say, hey, this customer called, you need to go here and check out his cooler, his freezer, or his air conditioner for this KFC or this Jack in the Box or whatever he had going on. He even had some bars under his belt. So I said, you know what? What's it going to take? So he said, well, you got your tools. You need a truck, you know. So I went back I told my friend this, you know, who was working for Prominent Hospital in San Fernando Valley, and he made a decent amount of money. And I said, look, man, the only thing I need is a truck, you know. And he said, how much is a truck going to cost you? And I said, about $5,000. He said, you know what? Here's $5,000. Go and buy yourself a truck. And like that. It was like that simple. You know, he was a great guy. He helped me out a lot. I went out and I started looking for a truck. And I was able to find this truck I started taking calls for this guy, and he started giving me calls, and those calls, I would give him 20%. Well, some time passed by, and he was like, you know what? I don't want the 20% no more. You could just keep my customers and keep the revenue from it. I'm good. I'm okay. As long as you're taking care of them, that's it. And that's really how I started this business. Like,
kind of
that was it. That was the foundation. Was his customers. Now. What I did is that I used that as a stepping stone, right, as a base. So I was able to generate some kind of revenue from this guy's customers, right? And I was able to hire a helper to help me out with the calls and that kind of stuff that would go with me, carry my tools, that sort of stuff. And then I said, look, I'm literally in business now. I said, well, all I got to do is that I just got to find more customers.
Right.
I got to use his base and add more customers to it. So wherever I would go, wherever I would eat, whoever I would meet, they would ask me, hey, what do you do? And I would tell them, this is what I do. Oh, well, I need you to come check this out or check that out. And that was the beginning of Service All Stars. I didn't even have a contractor's license at that point, Yeah. I had enough experience and that sort of stuff, but honestly, I started without having a license and just doing it as a basically a side business, and it just spurred out of that moment.
That's awesome. Yeah, you say that it was kind of like when we asked you kind of that path, and you say, oh, it's kind of like the path of opportunity. But I hear your story, and I feel like you created a lot of those opportunities, right? Like you made decisions to put yourself in positions to have those opportunities given to you, or at least, and then even, there's a lot to be said for actually taking an opportunity, right? It's easy for somebody to just say, no, don't worry about it. Like, I appreciate it. I don't need the help, or, a little bit too proud or whatever. But there's something to be said for actually taking advantage of those opportunities and making more of them than was probably expected. So that's, it's an awesome story. I love hearing stuff like that. So where are you guys at now? You started, what did you say, 6 or 7 years ago that you kind of started? 7 years ago. Where are you guys at now from an employee standpoint? How many of you guys you got working for you now out in the field?
Altogether, we're 26 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big time, man.
This is my favorite show so far.
So
that's nothing to shake a stick at, right? You're not just like, hey, I've got a few customers and I got a couple guys because I don't want to be out there on my hands and knees all day on my own. Like, you are actually like legit business, big time. That's freaking awesome, man. Awesome. So what's your customer base? Are you still doing a lot of that commercial restaurant stuff?
No, we kind of moved away from the commercial restaurant stuff. We're primarily a residential business. Yeah. We do some like commercial stuff here and there, but I would say 90% of our business is all residential.
What was the deciding factor in going to residential? Because I feel like with residential, it's kind of like we've had solar guys in here and some other like painting, a guy that runs CertaPro painting, and so I feel like if you're going to focus on residential, it's a lot more about marketing, right, and branding than it is about actually networking or finding customers, right? Because residential people are going to find you via social media or some of those other things. So did you have a lot of leads in residential that kind of led you to go that way, or did you have ideas in mind that could help you kind of market and get to that?
For me, it was really commercial. I love commercial too. I love the commercial customers and helping people out, but really to help out families, people in need. Like, I've been out on calls where, it's like 1 a.m. at night, 2 a.m. at night, and the baby's crying, and they're like, man, I need my air conditioner to work, just so my baby could go to sleep. Just to know that you can help somebody out and change their life, because you're not, in commercial, it's like people come in and they really don't appreciate, less air moving. Like, here we have air moving inside of this room, but it's a given thing, in commercial, because you really can't have, but in residential, it's for a lot of people, like the elderly, the people with babies, the people that are sick, it's really a make or break situation for them, they have to have it. So just knowing the fact that, you have a group of guys out there that are dedicated to helping out these families, these homeowners. And think about it, home ownership, right? I mean, it's if you're a homeowner, that's your greatest investment in life for most people. You know, they're not gonna have any other greater investment than that. And to know that these people are trusting you with that, I mean, that's huge. You know, huge. That's kind of like the core principles of Service All Stars. You know, we have 5 stars. And those 5 stars each have a meaning, you know. The first one is service, the second one is reliability, the other one is quality, you know, and then we go into integrity and value, you know. All of our guys, they live by those standards, you know. Even if if we compromise one, we have to go back and fix it, you know, because we just can't leave any job without those 5 principles in mind.
That's awesome.
Actually, I read that on your website talking about the detail that you guys put into your work and the quality that you put into your work. And from what I saw, it looked like that's a huge proponent of business continuing to come back to you guys because people see the quality of work that you guys put into it. And it just, I'm kind of going to go on my soapbox for a second, but I feel like where you were a decade ago, you know, living on the streets and trying to figure a way out every day, and then finally saying, you know, I'm going to make a decision today to live my best life today, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, to the point where you're at now. I feel like almost like your job and who you are is really, it's a service to others. You know what I mean? HVAC is the tool that you're using, but you're really actually looking out for people. That's pretty cool.
We're definitely in the people business. And I told my guys in the meeting this morning, I said, we're not in the AC business. We're in the people business. And like
we just happen to be able to service their air conditioning and keep them.
And to give back to that, you know, we have an initiative that we call Project Heartbeat. So Project Heartbeat is basically our guys going out there in the community. So working in HVAC for so many years, you know, on and off for more than 20 years, it becomes mundane, you know. You know, like how many ducks can you really run? And it'd be like, it's fun, you know. I mean, it's cool, you know, and every site is different, every job site, but the actual labor part of it can become mundane. So we started Project Heartbeat, not just for the people, but also for our guys, that they have a chance to go out there and help out, you know, community members. You know, last year we were at the LA strike serving lunch, you know, we help out different churches and organizations. You know, we have a soup kitchen that we're doing for one of the churches. So, you know, we're always, and the guys appreciate that, you know, because they're like, damn, we're getting paid and we're helping people out and we're not doing HVAC. Like they don't,
break from the mundane.
They don't get an opportunity to do that stuff. You know, they're like, man, you know, they're like, when they go out and do that, they post it on their Instagram, they post it on their Facebook, and they're like, look, I'm out here, I'm working, but I'm not doing HVAC, you know.
Better than crawling around in a 120-degree attic.
Exactly. You know. So it's helping both ways, you know. It's helping out people and it's helping out our guys as well.
Yeah, and it's good. I mean, not to take it down to that level, but it's also good marketing for you guys, right? Like people see you guys out there.
It's a byproduct. I think the marketing becomes a byproduct of that. And I mean, there is an attraction to when you see people helping people. You go, you know, I like those guys. Speaking of which, like, so kind of, well, not even backtracking, but in terms of talking about your 26 people that are working with you and working for you, what are some of the things that you're using in your, maybe some of the tools that you're using when you're hiring? Are you just kind of shooting from the hip and feeling it out? Do you have processes in place to, when you're looking for a certain kind of personality, you know, what is that mechanism that you're using for bringing on new people to the
That's a very good question. So there was a time when I used to be like, you're hired, you know. I'll give you a shot, you know. And that's it, you know. And
because that's what you would have wanted, right?
I was very much, you know, inclined to, because coming from my background, you know, I'm like, man, I just want to help people out because somebody gave me the opportunity, right? I feel I always have this feeling of giving back, you know, because somebody gave to me. They didn't have to. My friend didn't have to give me $5,000 to go buy a truck. I mean, you know, that's a lot of money.
It is a lot
to
of money.
trust somebody with. You know, my boss didn't have to call me up and say, hey,
here's all these clients.
Here's all these clients. It wasn't doing nothing for him. He had already won a big contract wherever he moved to in Ohio. He had a lot of contacts in the business that he was in, so he was able to get a job fairly quickly. So I was like, when I was hiring people, I was like, man, I want to make you a better you. The first guy I hired, I'll never forget him. I was doing, these bar back coolers for a bar in Echo Park, and a pretty famous bar. And I was doing the maintenance there, and I needed help, and I hired this kid, and we're washing these bar back coolers, and it's all wet back there behind the bar, and the kid is like, he's like, hey man, my socks are wet, and I'm like, what? Your socks are wet? He's like, yeah. I said, how's that? And he just picks up his shoe and he shows me the holes in his shoe, and I'm like, wow. He's like, man, I don't have no money to get shoes. And I'm like, wow, really? And that kid, I call him a kid because he's much younger than me, you know what I mean? So that kid went from making $400 a week with me to like 2 years later, he was making $1,400 a week.
Jeez.
So like that whole development, that's why I hired people, because I looked at them. I don't want to say as a project, but I was like, man, I can really take
you can help them.
Yeah, I can take them from here and bring them up to here, and I mean, I get joy out of that, I think that's pretty cool to see people's lives transform for the better.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that person's not with me anymore, but you know what? He has a trade for a lifetime. Like he could go anywhere in the world and make money, and feed his family, feed himself, from that. He doesn't have to rely on doing crimes or selling drugs or anything like that, to get by. He has some kind of skill in his hand, that he didn't have before. And I mean, to give somebody that kind of gift is so special, man. It's remarkable. I mean, just in this short time that this company has existed, I mean, we've set up other people's companies. We've set up so many people in the trade. It's just it's unbelievable.
Like guys that were working for you, and then they were opening up their own business at that point. You helped them.
They started here. They didn't even know the trade, and they started here, and they learned the trade. They worked for so many years, and they went out and got their own contractor's license, and that's pretty cool, When I first hired my first supervisor, he kind of keyed me in on that too. He was like, there's going to be a lot of people, Sal, that will owe their beginning to this company and to you, and it's true, and I'm grateful for that, every day. I'm
kind of building a legacy and building a network of people that have.
Yeah, I mean, in the SoCal area, HVAC trade it's a brotherhood, it's a very tight-knit small community. We're serving 22 million people, and there's only 15,000 workers, or maybe 20,000 workers at max by now, so there's not a whole lot of us out there, so there's like, if you know a few of them, all of them. One thing I would say is that as far as the hiring process is concerned, we had to become more focused. Not that we're not trying to help out others, but I realized that there's people out there that they don't want to help out themselves.
Yeah.
So who am I, to
dragging a dead horse? Almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They got to be willing to come to the well and drink.
Well, and when you're smaller and just starting up, it's easier to track those people that want to help themselves because they see that there's not a lot there from your side, and they want to get in there and grind with you. When you become bigger like you almost become a target for some of these guys that see you and go, oh, this is a pretty big company. I can go here for a couple weeks, file a claim that may or may not be real, and then take a few weeks off and get paid for it. And you become a target for some of those guys that are looking to take advantage of you a little bit.
Well, we lived through that too.
Yeah, so that's where you gotta.
We learned our lesson on that one.
Yeah, no, it's not fun.
You got to carry workman's comp policy. You got to have, you got to abide by the laws set by the state of California when it comes to contracting. It's just the only way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you're the contractor or the homeowner or the worker employee, I mean, you gotta have your papers in place, your documents, your insurances, because Otherwise, you're exposed. I had one guy. He needed 5 systems, so I gave him a quote. He said, "Man, you're $10,000 above this other guy." I said,
"This is probably because he doesn't have his license."
I said, "Well, I said, "This guy doesn't have a license, probably doesn't have insurance." And he went and checked. He's like, "Yeah, you're right." I said, "So let me ask you this: You're a multi-millionaire. You've got, X amount of businesses, X amount of revenue. The way the job was set up was it was a very high." Ceiling, so the systems were up like 25 feet in the air. I said, how about if this guy that's coming here, how about if he falls off a ladder and hurts himself?
You're liable.
Is that 10 grand, really worth it?
Yeah.
Worth your...
He signed the contract right on the spot. Right on the spot. He's like, where's the contract at? And he signed it right then and there. He didn't think twice, man. He was a smart guy, I think. Because I've been on that side where even for people who file false claims, they file these false claims and they think they're gonna. If you don't have workman's comp, you're in trouble.
Oh yeah,
because that false.
You personally.
Well, they're coming after you personally, but you're in trouble because now you got to pay a lawyer to it's false. See the workman's comp attorney, he's going to work on contingency, so he's going to come after you. Now, but you got to pay. If you don't have workman's comp, you got to pay for your side. If you have a workman's comp policy, they're gonna pay for everything. They're gonna protect you. They're gonna pay for that lawyer. They're gonna pay for all of that. So contractors that don't want to have workman's comp, I mean, you're really selling yourself so short.
Yeah.
You can't even get the bigger jobs. So you're really, I mean. You're working
stuck doing little under the table stuff. Yeah,
the workman's comp policy is a small fee for bigger opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's just how the contractor has to look at it. Because what made me that was one incident that made me get a policy. But the other thing was that I mean, whenever I went to go bid on bigger jobs, they were like, "Hey, do you have a workman's comp policy?"
Proof of insurance and all that stuff.
Before you get on the job.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was it like? I mean, obviously you had quite a bit of knowledge and working with your hands and stuff like that, and you get a couple guys and you can manage a couple guys, but getting to where you're at now, I'm sure there was a lot of, what was that learning curve like? Getting to the point where you're actually running a business. I mean, you're doing multi-millions a year probably, right? A couple million at least a year.
We're about $6-7 million.
Yeah. So I mean, what was that learning curve like for you? Or did you have any mentors or anything? Any kind of help in that process of being able to run a business, doing $6 or $7 million a year?
I think the older guys in the industry as a whole were my mentors. The people that I worked for, showed me a lot of the installation process. So I was able to take best of this contractor, that contractor, their installation process and make it my own. There's things that our company does during the installation that other companies won't do. Like, when we do our furnaces, we make sure everything is hung up in the attic because that, has less vibration on their ceiling, on their home. The system's a lot more quieter. So that kind of stuff. It takes a few more hours to do, but we do it, and, as far as sealing up the ducts and stuff, we have a special process for that. So for that, I would say that, the industry, the older guys in the industry were my mentors that I work for. As far as the business side is concerned, a lot of it was just trial and error. This company, there was an uptick in this company, and then there was a pretty bad downslide too because there was a lot of things that I didn't know, and that kind of made this company kind of slide down a little bit.
Yeah.
But again. I ran into a guy that was a consultant, and he said, "Hey, you're about 2 weeks away from bankruptcy. Let me help you out." And I said, "Okay."
Yes, please.
He looked at my finances.
Been there, don't want to go there.
I was like, I was about 3 or 4 years into the business, and he came on board. I mean, let's face it. Contractors don't last. Their lifeline is 18 months to 2 years tops.
Yeah.
So I was already into my.
You got to make it over that hump.
I made it over the hump. I was at 4 years. So I wasn't gonna lose what I already had. So I hired this guy, and he showed me a few things. He basically schooled me on I would say the business side, you know, and that guy, that particular person, I would definitely take him to be my mentor, you know. It was funny because he was a consultant and stuff, and I'm like, man, I gotta pay you every week, and you know, he wasn't cheap, you know.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, I'm trying to process it because it was the first time that I had really went into the realm of consulting. I don't know if you guys ever you know, hired any consultants. You know, so there were some mistakes I did in hiring him, and there was a lot of good things though. Yeah. And we would have these conversations at night. You know, these deep philosophical conversations that had some things to do with the business, but really, if you looked at it from an objective perspective, you'd be like, man, this really doesn't have anything to do with what I'm doing, right? It has nothing to do with HVAC. But there was a lot of lessons in what we were talking about, you know? Yeah. So he was on board for about 6 months. After 6 months, you know, I had to replace his salary back into my marketing budget, you know, because the jobs were starting to get scarce, and you know, but after he left from his consulting position, you know, he had told me this in the beginning. He said, "Man, I want you to really remember everything that we talk about." You know, at night, you know, I mean, we're talking about like 9, 10 o'clock at night. I've already been working like 12, 14 hours. And he's asking me, hey, but you know what? I did remember what we talked about. And after he left, I started putting those things in place, you know, those, whether you want to call them controls or advice or, systems, you know, systems, you know, I started you know, when certain situations happen, I remember the conversation that we had. And I said, oh, right here, I have to do this, you know, and that's really how I was able to come up out of that hole. And I mean, we've been taking off ever since. That was 2017. So, you know, we were on an upslide everywhere, everything from about 2013 to, you know, 2017, the fall of 2017, and then, you know, after the summer of 2017, when the business started sliding off. It was sliding off probably a little bit before that, but in the summertime, you know, HVAC guys, they're making so much money and stuff. They think you're making money, you know, because it's coming through the bank account, but it's coming in one hand and it's going out on the other hand. Yeah. So, you know, it just seems like that, you know.
The cash flow's there, but not necessarily profitability.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but after that 2017 finished, I mean, 18, 19, and this year has just been phenomenal. I mean, this year we have, in equipment purchases, we have made almost 1.5 times the equipment purchases that we did last year already in this year.
Jeez. In 2020.
In 2020.
With coronavirus. That's awesome.
I mean, it's been crazy. It's been, I mean, for me, it's been really a dream come true.
Yeah.
You know?
No, because legit. Like, yeah.
Because to go back to when I was a kid, you know, I always knew I wanted to be in business, you know? And it's like, now it's like actually happening. I'm like, wow, you know, my dream came true. This is where I wanted to be in my life, you know? For everybody that works for me, I kind of relay that message to them too, that I want their dreams to come true, you know? Right. Whether it's here or somewhere else, you know? But follow your dreams, you know? Be who you want to be. Because at the end, this is the only life you have. Right. You know what I mean? This is it. You're not going to have another chance at it. This you know, when you pass from here, you know, whatever you did, that's what you did, and that's it. Yeah. There's no coming back. For like one guy I had, he was an inventor, right? He was a customer of mine. His name's Tom Jones, right? And that's another thing. I've met in this 7 years, I've met people that from all walks of life, man. It's so remarkable. The people you can come in, you know, the humanity that you are able to experience, you know, because people are who they are when they're in their home.
That's true.
You know, and that's another reason why I went the residential route, because I wanted to see people, I wanted to experience people for who they are. You know, not when they're outside in their home or in their businesses and they're you know, they have a mask on, but inside their house, they are that person. Yeah. And I've met a lot of great people. You know, I'm going to say that I've met more great people out there inside of their homes than I have people that, bad people,
Right.
or people who you didn't want to meet, you know, for the majority. And that's why I firmly believe, like, people are naturally good. They might be misinformed, but their natural disposition is for humans is that they are good people. They're good.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's my personal belief.
Yeah, no,
My
wife gives me crap all the time because I believe in people way too much, or I trust. I mean, I leave my doors unlocked. I leave, you know what I mean. That's the way I am. I tell her all the time. I said I trust people more than I probably should.
I mean, there are bad seeds out there,
for sure. Yeah.
But I'm saying as a whole, as humans as a whole, we are good. Normal people don't want to go out and hurt people, man.
Yeah.
That's not how humans operate. You know what I mean? So I got a chance to experience that. But going back to Tom Jones, this guy was an inventor. He gave me a spark, a couple years ago. He said, Sal, he sat me down and he had nothing about HVAC, but just sat me down, had a talk with me, and he said, Sal, whatever you're gonna do it now, do it today. Because he said, you don't want to be that guy that's 65 years old that said that, hey man, I should have done this, I should have done that. He said, you're not going to have a chance to do it at that point. He said, the window of opportunity closes for certain things. It may open back up, but it may not. Or is that the chance you're willing to take?
Yeah.
He said, whatever you're going to do. And that kind of resonated with my grandfather, who was a lawyer. He always told his kids, he said, tomorrow never comes. He said, whatever you're going to do it today. Yeah. He said, tomorrow never comes. Because there's people out there that are like, hey, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's not coming. It's all about here, today.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very inspirational. And hopefully people are listening to this kind of, hopefully you're lighting a fire under somebody, you know what I mean?
Well, it's not like
an
inspirational book. This is an actual life of a person that's gone from absolutely nothing except for a vehicle and a shower and a $54 a year membership, to a $6 to $7 million revenue company. I mean, it's 26. Wow.
So what does your management team look like now? I can't imagine you're doing it all on your own, right?
No. I had to learn that lesson too.
Yeah. A lot of lessons.
You'll kill yourself quick. Yeah. I mean,
it goes back to like, do what you're good at, right? Like, do the one thing that you're good at. I mean, you're probably not great at payroll. You're probably not great at marketing. You're probably not, you know what I mean? So you gotta be humble enough and self-aware enough to bring those kind of people in.
I gotta hire people better than me. My sales manager. He's better than me. My install manager, he's better than me. I have a call center manager, that's great with customers on the phone, and I got my assistant here, Erica, she's helping us out on the marketing end of things. So I mean, I got a great team. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have those people in my realm. Like, it's like, it's hard to describe, and because it's so surreal, it's like I can't believe it, that it actually clicked that way, and it was funny because we all knew each other, like all of us really. My call center manager at this time, my sales, my install manager used to do installs for me, and then he set out and set up his own company. And that didn't work out for him. So, we've kind of like partnered up to be even more powerful, as a team. My sales manager used to answer, was a comfort advisor for me. And he used to go out on the calls. And, he's a really good sales guy. Now he's managing my sales team, and he ventured off on his own for a while. And then he was like, hey, I'm going to partner with you. And, we're going to ride it out and really make it happen. My call center manager, he's a knucklehead. I was talking to him for years. I knew him for years, and he actually left. He was a lead generator for a huge. He was the number one lead generator in the whole entire nation for one of the biggest residential companies. And he actually left and was doing building maintenance or something, And I told him,
what are you doing that for? You're not good at that.
Exactly. I said, what are you doing? I said, this is what you're good at, I said, your best quality is the way you talk to people, and you need to utilize that. Once I told him that, like, he called me 2 days later and he was like, hey, I'm on board. I mean, for years I was explaining to him, like, you know, that
you're not doing it right.
You're not, yeah, exactly. And now he's on board, and he's like, man, I wish I was here earlier. You know, well, things happen at their time for a reason. You know, it's just that's what it is. Like me being in that gym that day and meeting my friend. I mean, that day, that wasn't coincidence. You know, there was nothing coincidence about that. I mean, it was just, it was meant to be that way. You know, I do believe in destiny, and I think that.
I feel like you have to, given your story. Yeah.
You know, I mean, the way, you know, it was just, and he could have walked up to any person and be like, hey, you want to be my workout partner? But, you know, it was, he came up to me, or I came, I don't remember, but we met each other, you know? And I mean, here I am taking showers and homeless, and this guy goes and gets me into a room, and from a room, he actually got me into an apartment too, because he had a lot of friends in college, and he was just like, you know, he was like, hey, you know, I got.
That needs a roommate or whatever.
Because in that garage, you know, there was roaches and that sort of stuff there. So he's like, man, I don't really want you living like that. So he put me up with these college kids. And after that, this particular person, he even signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment for me. I couldn't believe it. One day I came home. And he was like, here, let me get the for some reason, I forgot what it was, but he needed to get into the apartment, you know, and I'm not going to argue with a guy whose name is on the apartment, right? So I just gave him the key or something, and one day I came home from work, because I was sleeping on the floor, you know. I got an apartment, but remember, I don't have any money, so I'm sleeping on the floor in the apartment. I don't have no furniture, nothing. I opened up the door, and this guy, I swear, he decked out, like, he got me a couch, he got me a bed, everything. I was just like, wow, you know, all from the kindness of his heart. Yeah. All from the kindness of his heart. He didn't get nothing back in return. He just felt like that.
Oh, no, he got a lot back in return. Not monetarily or not physically, but
I believe that too. I believe that too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for him, it's him seeing somebody actually doing good with the opportunities that he's able to afford and actually putting effort in. It's just kind of the same thing with your employees,
He definitely
right?
got it back, you know, probably tenfold by now. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, I stay in contact with him, but he actually moved away. Yeah. And sometimes I think, like, I'm like, man, you know, I wish he was around, but, you know, certain people come into your life for a certain time for certain reasons. Yeah. And when that reason is finished, they actually go their you know, they go, you guys go your separate ways. Not to negate whatever, you know, transpired inside the relationship, but it's just ways things are.
Served its purpose.
It served its purpose, you know. So now I'm thinking, like, man, I wish, you know, he was still around and this and that. But then I came to realize, I said, well, wherever he went, he's meant to be there to help others out the way he helped me. Yeah.
Well, think about the legacy he's created too. I mean, he groomed you, brought you in, took care of you, right? And then you've gone out. And I mean, if he's going other places, I mean, he's just planting seeds all over the place.
Exactly.
Planting seeds of love and grace and helping people get through things.
I mean, just think about it. Like, you know, he went down to San Diego and he has got a job there. I'm sure. Like the nature of that person is to help others, and he's helping people in need. I know that for sure.
That's cool.
You know? Yeah.
So what's the future look like for Service All Stars? Where do you guys? What's your plan for the future from a business standpoint? How big are you trying to get it? How any other verticals you guys are looking to go into? Or?
I mean, we've gone into solar, plumbing, and that sort of stuff as well. We're just kicking off those trades as we speak. But honestly, we're taking it one step at a time. But we do want to expand the brand to, you know, something probably regional or maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah. Open
up other offices and be able to kind of grow your outreach a little bit.
But definitely with the same mentality in mind. You know, we don't want to...
Can't cheapen the brand or anything.
No, we're not going to digress from what it is. You know, we're not going to go back from that. We're not going to become some other kind of firm, you know. We're going to stick to our principles.
And that's what's made you successful, right? So you got to make sure you maintain that. Otherwise, you lose integrity in what you've already built. Yeah. Even if you...
And whoever comes to work here, they have to believe in our core values. Otherwise, you know, and that like going back to the hiring process, that's really what has changed. You know, we've been able to say, okay, these are our core values. This is what we stand for. as long as you stand for these core values, you're welcome to work here.
Yeah.
But if you don't stand,
we don't need you.
We can't. Yeah, we just can't do it.
Yeah. And then I feel like those values are strong enough that you're able to weed those that say they, oh yeah, I stand for integrity and reliability and quality and all, and then pretty quickly, I mean, you can see that somebody's not.
Well, especially when you've been living that way for so long, it's not something you've just. Oh, I think these things are great. Let's go ahead and implement these things. I mean, you've been living a life that way, so I'm sure you can see it in people.
But I fired over 300 people in the last 7 years. I believe it.
Well, you're learning too, right? Yeah. I mean, this 7 years has been a huge life lesson.
But one thing I tell everybody that we fire is I said, this is not the end of the road for you, and the reason is that maybe you don't fit in here, or maybe you haven't learn what you need to learn, but somewhere else there's opportunity for you. Keep in the trade, keep doing what you're doing. Right. But you might fit in somewhere else. Right. If not here, you could be successful. And to go back 7 years, the way that this really, this actually took off from a very, very good firing. True story.
Yeah.
I mean, I had got into it, like I had that opportunity, right? And then what happened is that my boss called me into his office and he sat me down. He said, Sal, I used to go hiking with this guy. I swear, we'd be up in the mountains, 10,000 feet up. Great guy, and we had that kind of relationship. He'd pick me up on the weekend and we'd be out all day hiking, So, but he called me in his office and he said, hey, look, you're not getting along with my supervisor and I'm going to have to let you go. And I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, well, I had to make a choice. And he said, I really like you. I like you. We go out hiking and this and that. And, but he's like, I put a lot into my supervisor. I've sent him to classes, training, this and that. And I've got a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, but this guy, excuse my language, but he's a dick to people, to the customer, to people who work to him and everything. And he said, no, I understand that. But, he said, I got my eggs with him, So he said, look, just pack up your stuff. I'll give you a ride home. I said, all right, no problem. I said, you know what, John, I'm going to tell you something. I said, from what I could see in the way your attitude is, don't take it the wrong way, but I said, you're always going to be a 2 and 3 truck company. I said, you're always going to be that. You're never going to be able to grow. And he just looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what does this guy know? What does he know? And I went home, and that was pretty much it. I took that opportunity with my previous boss, with the maintenance or the restaurants and all that kind of stuff, and started off this company. And when it really started rolling, I told myself one day, I said, man, I got to give John, his name was John, I said, I got to give John a call and let him know, thank you for firing me. Thank you.
Right.
Because if you didn't fire me, like I would be stuck in the same, dredge. But I mean, thank you. And I did. And I called him up and I said, hey, John. He said, hey, Sal, what's going on? I said, look, I started my own thing. I just wanted to say, man, if you didn't fire me that day, I would never be in this spot.
Does John still have 2 or 3 trucks?
And John still has 2 or 3 trucks. And that supervisor, he's no longer there with him. But he's still in 2 or 3 trucks. So I'm bigger than him. Yeah. And when I used to be doing jobs for him, I used to be like, wow, he's so big. Yeah. But like, not to take anything away from John, personally, great guy. But on the business aspect, he was one of those contractors that was okay with sending his guys home for a week. And I'm like, he's like, there's no work this week, you're going home. I'm like, okay, but what do I do?
Yeah,
like,
what do I do?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the reason he would do that was he told me. He said that, he taught me one lesson, right? One day I was riding with him and he was like, a lot of this business is it's just like Texas Hold'em. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them, Sal. And I said, oh, okay. He's teaching me now the contracting business, So I retained that lesson. But another thing that he taught me was not to be like him in certain regards, because he said, look, we don't go do a job until we're the highest man in. So he said 95% of my bids, he said, I lose. He said, I just but that's all cool, right? That's good. So he had a 5% close ratio. That's good for you because you're making top dollar going into the job. But what about your guys when they got to go home for the week or 2 weeks until you find that job and then put them on that job? What about them? You don't care about them, that means. So here at Service All-Stars, we aren't the highest guy going in. We're not the lowest either, but we are priced right where, the customer wins, the company wins, and my guys stay busy and work. And hey, sometimes we may be that company that'll give you a better price because we're not so busy that week, but just to get the guys on the job, because my most important thing is to get the guys on the job. And that's one of the reasons why I started this business was I mean, I have very, very few times had to send people home. And if I did, it was one person, like we would in the off season, we might rotate, one person this week, the next person that week, I mean, we're hoping that doesn't happen anymore, but, and that's pretty much it. But nowhere where we like, oh, it's a whole company shut down, everybody go home. That's ridiculous.
That's crazy. Very cool. Well, we typically try to finish off with some cool or funny stories, but I feel like this
the whole
entire
thing was
hour
cool.
has been an awesome story, so I'm not even going to put you on the spot for that. But I mean, this has been an amazing time. We really appreciate you coming. Before we go, we want to let you give your shout outs to your plugs or if you're
where people
online,
can find you.
how they can find you, your website, phone number, Instagram, any of that kind of stuff. Go ahead and let everybody know where to find you.
I mean, you could find us on serviceallstars.net. It's all one word, serviceallstars.net. Our phone number is 888-299-2387. I mean, you can give us a call. We'll definitely try to help you out over the phone. If we can't help you out over the phone, we'll get you scheduled for a call anywhere in the Orange County, Los Angeles County area for sure. Thank you guys for having me on board. This was a great opportunity for us.
This was awesome. It was our pleasure. Yeah. This is great.
I'd like to give a shout out to the Service All-Stars family. Everybody that works with me, not for me, works with me. And to our vendors, to our suppliers, and really the industry at large, and all those guys out there in the attic right now where it's probably 140 degrees, and, and they're really struggling and striving hard for themselves and their family. Means a lot to us and to the customers. I mean, HVAC is a trade that I feel like should be appreciated a little bit more, but it's a product that nobody sees, which is air.
You don't have it.
You don't have it. So, thank you. Thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
No, Sal, it was our pleasure.
Sal.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.